Mr. Speaker, thank you. Unfortunately, here we go again. Yet another attempt to expand the power of the federal government and to intrude further in America's business. Just like with cap and trade that was forced upon members without proper consideration, here comes another bill from the Energy and Commerce Committee. This time it's H.R. 2749, the Food Safety Enhancement Act of 2009. I do believe that our nation has the safest food supply system in the world. But I also agree that we should continue to examine that supply system to make certain that we continue to improve upon it. However, H.R. 2749 will not make us a better food safety country. Instead, it will expand the federal bureaucracy and impose unnecessary costs on a struggling ag economy. This legislation represents a dramatic shift in federal policy that could, just like cap and trade, devastate agriculture. This legislation was considered by the Energy and Commerce Committee just a couple weeks ago. Now, just like cap and trade, the Democrat leadership wants to bypass the expertise of the Committee on Agriculture and bring this bill to the floor, this time under suspension of the rules. No further consideration, no markup by other committees of jurisdiction, no amendments, just a vote. One provision of 2749 that is of particular concern is Section 103. This section would require the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to set on-farm performance standards. For the first time, we would have the federal government telling our farmers and ranchers how to grow crops and raise livestock. The cultivation of crops and the production of food animals is an immensely complex endeavor involving a vast range of processes. We raise a multitude of crops and livestock in numerous regions using various production methods. Imagine if the federal government is allowed to dictate how all of that is done. Chaos will ensue. Unfortunately, that's what H.R. 2749 allows. Those who've never been on a farm will be allowed to tell a producer how to conduct his or her operations. We will not improve food safety by allowing by allowing Food and Drug Administration to tell our farmers what to do. We'll improve food safety by allowing farmers and ranchers to do something that they and their ancestors have been doing for generations. There are other problems with this bill as well. New penalties, record-keeping requirements, traceability, registration mandates, user fees, all things that do nothing to prevent foodborne diseases or outbreaks, but do plenty to keep regulators busy and increase costs. I raised these concerns today in a hearing of the House Agriculture Committee that was reviewing food safety. The witnesses representing the FDA tried to reassure the committee by telling us not to worry, they knew what they were doing, and they would consult with the Department of Agriculture. However, FDA has no expertise in crop and livestock production practices, and I have little confidence that the FDA will work with USDA. In fact, a recent example of FDA's unwillingness to access the expertise of USDA was demonstrated this week involving another bill, H.R. 1549, that would restrict, in fact eliminate, the use of animal antibiotics. H.R. 1549 would institute a ban on non-therapeutic uses of antibiotics, which is another ill-conceived concept and that's a concerning complex. It's a very complex issue. And yet we learned today that no consultation by FDA has occurred with USDA. In a hearing earlier this week, before the House Rules Committee, the FDA suddenly shifted its course and supported this ban. No new research or scientific analysis was presented, and again, apparently no consultation with USDA. So much for collaborating with the Department of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we must stop rushing legislation through Congress without careful, thoughtful, and complete consideration. Congress rarely gets things right when we have ample time to properly consider policy changes, but it never makes good decisions when rushed to arbitrary timetables. H.R. 2749 needs to be referred to the Committee on Agriculture to allow necessary improvements to this food safety bill that will actually improve the food safety of our country and not shut down agriculture. We do not need FDA from farm to fork. I yield back.